Welcome to the final episode of Parker Brothers Build the Boardwalk. Last week, Lady Denham collapsed at the spring ball. She survived the night due to the diligence of Dr. Fuchs and the nursing skills of the Parker sisters. The next morning, the Parkers come early to church, as Tom is hoping to talk to Lord Althorpe before the service to further his acquaintance. In the churchyard, Mr. Hankins also appears to be waiting for someone.
Good morning, Vicar.
Oh, good morning, Mr. Parker.
Waiting for Lord Althorpe?
No. Well, yes, and for someone else. Excuse me. There she is.
Mr. Hankins walks quickly to meet a self-conscious Mrs. Griffiths. The Beaufort girls precede her, and after greeting Mr. Hankins and Mr. Parker, they walk into the church, giggling.
You don't mind, do you, dear?
Mind? No.
What? What's this?
Mr. Parker, I'd like you to be the first to know that I have plucked the most beautiful blossom of the field. Mrs. Griffiths, Augusta, has agreed to be my wife.
My heartiest congratulations to you both. And when will this happy event occur?
Once arrangements are made for my pupils.
Hopefully before the summer is out.
I tell you, Reverend, this summer is shaping up to be the best one yet for Sanditon.
I could not agree more.
Lord and Lady Babington walk up with Alison trailing behind them, uncomfortably. After everyone else goes into the church, Alison stays behind to talk to Tom. Mr. Stringer approaches but hesitates to go in, waiting to speak to Alison.
Good morning, Miss Alison.
Good morning, Mr. Parker. I was wondering if I might come back to stay with you until Charlotte and I go home tomorrow?
Why, of course. It must be a bit awkward at Lady Denham's without her there.
Yes. The Babingtons are very civil, but they are hiring a trained nurse, so there is nothing left for me to do when she is so very ill.
I see. Our home is yours for however long you wish to stay.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. I shall come this afternoon, then.
Good morning, Mr. Parker. Miss Allison.
Good morning.
Did I understand you to say that you would be leaving soon?
Yes. Charlotte and I will go home tomorrow.
So soon? I thought you were to stay through the summer.
Well, I am no longer useful to Lady Denham. Charlotte is anxious to be at home. We have been away a long time.
Are you anxious to be at home as well?
Not as much as Charlotte, but it would be better if she were not here when such an event takes place.
I see. Well, I was hoping... That is, you see, it's rather a shame, because Mr. Milsham gave me the week off so I could help my aunt with a few things. I've been missing our walks in the park. I was wondering if I might see you before you go home.
You are seeing me now, Mr. Stringer?
No, I know, but would you like to go for a walk this afternoon? With me?
I would enjoy that very much. I am planning to come back to Trafalgar House this afternoon. After church I will collect my things and take my last walk to Sanditon Park. Perhaps I may find you along the way.
Perhaps you will. Perhaps the sun is shining. And perhaps we're standing here. Perhaps.
That afternoon, Alison, carrying a small bag of belongings, is just out of sight of Sanditon House when she spots Mr. Stringer leaning up against a sturdy old tree, waiting for her. They smile at one another in greeting. then silently fall into step for a few seconds before Mr. Stringer recollects himself and remembers his manners.
Oh, may I carry your bag?
Thank you. This is a charming day. The wind, I fancy, must be southerly.
Happy wind. To engage Miss Heywoods' thoughts. I'm no good at small talk, Miss Allison.
It does not matter. How was your aunt?
My aunt really enjoyed your visits this spring. When her rheumatism flares up, she doesn't get out. It cheered her up very much to see you.
It was my pleasure. She told me you were reading out Pilgrim's Progress to her.
We finished it last week. Then I started on Paradise Lost. But that was more for me than her. She fell asleep after 5 minutes. But now, we have your Christiana, and she likes it much better. Do you enjoy reading?
Yes, but even more when someone else reads aloud. Charlotte reads plays to us in the winter. She does the voices very well. Oh, I saw that there is a headstone at your father's grave now. It is a very nice memorial.
Yes, I wanted him to be remembered. He was the principal builder on the assembly rooms, and he played a key role in the terrace. No one will remember that a few years from now.
Is it getting easier to be without him?
A little. And you? Are you still missing your cousin?
Some days, I still feel like I am in the slough of despond. I had everything planned out, you see. Charles had such a vision for the good that could be done. Even in a small parish like Willingden, he was always lending a hand somewhere, or giving someone a warm word of encouragement. He pushed back the hand of cold and darkness wherever he went. I was looking forward to helping him.
And there be other ways to push back the hand of cold and darkness, besides the office of the clergyman? For instance, the improvement of a working man's cottage for a few conveniences to help him stay warm, and to enjoy the simple pleasures of life each day.
I see what you mean. For instance, the seat on the porch that you built for your aunt?
Yes. Did she tell you I built that?
No, but it looks like your work.
Your sister mentioned that your father might renovate his tenant cottages.
She has been coaxing him for a while. I think he is almost persuaded.
If it would help, I could offer some suggestions. I would just need some rough sketches, and dimensions of the rooms. That is, if your sister needs any help. She may already have it figured out.
I don't think she has progressed that far. Father has yet to approve.
Then, when you send the sketches, I hope you might tell me how you are.
How I am?
Yes. For I'm going to wonder, and I'm going to miss seeing you.
The pair take a few more steps in silence. Finally, Mr. Stringer stops walking and gathers his courage.
I know this may be sudden, Miss Allison, but I don't know when I'll see you again. You strike me as exactly the type of girl that I would like to walk the straight and narrow with for the rest of my life. You, kind and good-hearted. Not to mention beautiful. And I don't want you to go home without knowing that. I've loved you since the first day I saw you. I wonder if you might return those feelings? Or if you think you ever could return them? Well, any thoughts? If it's to be no, then just say it straight out.
This is indeed sudden, Mr. Stringer, but by no means unwelcome. Your apprenticeship, it lasts for another 2 years?
A year and a half now.
And what after that?
Mr. Milsham says he'll hire me into his firm. If things keep going as well as they are.
In London?
No, that's the beauty of it. With so many cottages being built in the south coast, he needs someone on site in the country. I might move around a bit, but I need not be in London.
It sounds wonderful, seeing all those new places.
I'm glad you think so. I think so. I will not be rich by any means, but I think I'll be able to afford to marry at the time. That is, if someone would have me. And there's only one that matters. Will you, Miss Allison?
Ask me in a year or two, and I will tell you.
A year or two? Will it be yes?
Ask me again when you're done with your apprenticeship.
I will.
I have a great fancy to walk to the falls, Mr. Stringer. Have you ever been to Hollis Falls?
I'd walk anywhere with you, Miss Allison.
The next morning at Trafalgar House, Alison sits up suddenly in bed.
Charlotte! I haven't been sea bathing yet.
The water is still too cold for me.
But I do not know if we will ever be back to Sanditon. Could we not go this morning before we leave?
I suppose we could at least go paddling. I don't know that we have time for sea bathing.
Is something the matter?
We are leaving today, and I have not yet put my feet in the ocean.
And you did not think of this until now?
I was planning to spend the whole summer here until Lady Denham became ill.
I've been wanting to go paddling as well. This will be my last chance since you're leaving today. Mrs. Griffith won't be here to scold us this early in the morning.
True. The beach should be clear of all but the most dedicated of sea bathers.
Let us go then. Make haste, Charlotte.
Whatever happened to the girl who said all I want to do is sleep?
Indeed, who was that? Charlotte, get up. Make haste.
Later that morning, after the girls' last expedition to the seaside, the servants pick up the Heywoods' trunk and carry it downstairs. Charlotte follows. Sidney is leaning on the mantel as the servants come down. He straightens up and comes out to the hall when he sees Charlotte.
So, you are to leave us?
An assumption, Mr. Parker?
I don't suppose you would have time for a walk on the cliff tops before you leave.
I don't believe we had better, Mr. Parker.
Ah.
Maybe. A very short one. We are to leave in an hour.
Sidney and Charlotte walk out of town and up to the top of the cliff that overlooks the beach. They reach the top without either one of them saying a word.
I think we must have a little conversation. I thought maybe there was something you wanted to say.
What more is there to say? Perhaps it's selfish of me. But I wanted one last walk with Charlotte Heywoods.
Well then, I would like to say that even though things have turned out as they have, I admire you very much for the love you have for your family, for Tom, and I thank you for your friendship.
It has been the dearest of my life.
Mine as well.
Charlotte.
That is all.
Sidney leans towards her, wanting to kiss her. His eyes are miserable and wet.
Sidney, if things were different.
How I wish they were. I wish I had never.
I know. The carriage will be there soon. Let us go back.
Charlotte links her arm through Sydney's, then takes hold of his hand. Together they start on their way back to town. As the first house comes into view, Sydney's steps slow down. He takes the hand that Charlotte has clasped tightly into his and pulls it up over his heart.
I feel as if I'm leaving my best self with you.
You always have your best self. Take it with you, wherever you go.
Goodbye, Charlotte.
Goodbye, Mr. Parker.
Sydney pulls her hand further up to his lips for a kiss, then gently lets go. They walk the rest of the way in silence until they reach the Trafalgar House door. As they approach the house, the stagecoach is being loaded with the Heywoods trump. Tom, Mary, the children, Sadie and Joshua come out of the house to bid them goodbye.
Charlotte, Allison, I can't tell you how much your company has meant to us this year. I hope you may return soon.
Indeed. You are family to us. Come to us any time.
You could come back for the regatta.
Perhaps your father can bring you all down in August.
That may prove a little difficult.
We will find you somewhere for you all to stay, perhaps Parker Downs.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Mary.
We've enjoyed it so much.
Bye.
Right soon.
We will. And please, let us know how Lady Denham does.
I will.
The girls hug all the children and Mary. Tom hands Allison into the carriage. Then he hesitates, looks at Sydney and steps back. Sydney steps forward to help Charlotte into the carriage for the last time.
Safe journey.
Charlotte tries to smile cheerfully. Sydney can barely look at her as she sits down, but once they start, he watches them until the coach is out of sight. As the horses trot out of town, they pass Widow Stringer's cottage. Mr. Stringer is digging up his aunt's garden, his pants and boots muddy from turning over the soil for planting. Allison gives an amused smile to see him so dirty and waves to him out of the window. Stringer smiles and returns the gesture, as does his aunt, who's sitting on the porch watching him work. After they pass, Stringer looks down at his muddy clothes and grimaces. A lady travelling in the coach with Charlotte and Allison looks at him with contempt.
Is not that young Stringer, who is apprenticed with Milsham Architectural Firm?
Yes, it is.
You wouldn't know it to look at him. You can take a man out of the dirt, but you can't take the dirt out of the man. You not agree, Miss Allison?
No, I do not.
Well, we all have our own level, I suppose. Attention to dress speaks volumes of one's station. Speaking of which, do you know who I saw today as I went past Denham Place?
Sir Edward Denham?
The man himself. A handsomer man I've never seen. It is said that he is staying in Hastings for a while. A sad loss for Sanditon.
Indeed.
Oh, yes. He has such a beautiful blue coat.
A half hour later, the carriage is out of town by 3 miles. A horse is heard galloping behind them. Charlotte perks up her ears and looks out, but sees no one. From the rear of the carriage, a man's voice is heard.
What now? Who is it this time?
Someone for the young ladies, to be sure. Wherever they go, the Heywoods leave a suitor in their wake.
James Stringer, dressed in a handsome dark coat and top hat, comes to Allison's door and opens it.
Mr. Stringer? What on earth?
I have a word, Miss Allison.
Allison takes the hand he offers, and they walk a few steps behind the carriage.
Do you like my hat?
It is very smart, but do not tell me you followed us all this way to show me your hat.
No. But I could not let you leave Sanditon without your last glimpse of me being as a grubby gardener. Tell me you do not think too badly of me.
No, indeed. Why would I think...
Suddenly, Mr. Stringer steps forward and surprises Alison with a kiss.
I hope you won't think too badly of me for that. I do not want you to forget the question I'll be asking you a 12th month come November. I love you, you know.
Have no fear, Mr. Stringer. I will not forget.
Well then, Miss Allison, I hope to see you in Sanditon before too long.
We shall see, Mr. Stringer. We shall see.
Mr. Stringer hands her back into the coach, both of them all smiles, and he raps on the door to signal readiness. The coach starts off again for Willingden, and Stringer returns to his horse with a parting tip of the hat to Alison, who watches him as long as she can from her window. That night back in Sanditon, all 5 Parker siblings are gathered in the Trafalgar House drawing room when Morgan tells them that Lady Denham's solicitor is waiting to see Tom. Tom leaves the room.
What do you suppose he has to say?
Surely she's not calling in the loan at this point. Sydney will be married in a fortnight.
I can't imagine she's calling in the loan when she can't even get out of bed.
I do not think we need to worry.
Why do you say so?
Well, Miss Allison was very serene when she came from Lady Denham's bedside. If Lady Denham was planning to ruin Tom, Miss Allison would not keep it from us. Her face is unable to hide the truth.
True enough. Miss Allison's face is an open book, just like her sister's.
I agree, sister. We all have the same mind. But I confess it does make me a trifle anxious.
After a long while, Morgan shows Mr. Gates to the door, and Tom comes back with a legal document in his hand. He wearily sits down.
Well, Tom?
What did he say?
He is asking for a divorce.
A divorce?
Mary is asking for a divorce?
No, not Mary, heavens. Lady Denham, I speak metaphorically. She is breaking all ties. She will no longer do business with me.
What exactly did Gates say?
I can either find the funds within 2 weeks, or I can give up my beachfront east of town, plus all the other property that we bought together, with the exception of Prospect House. She will leave me that, and forgive the entire loan in return for the sole possession of the remaining properties. But she's also asking for Parker Downs.
Parker Downs? Can she do that?
It's more than fair, given the loss of the terrace. All told, the properties are worth a bit less than what is owed. She's actually being generous. I never thought I would say that in reference to Lady Denham.
It will set back the development of the town by years. We will all be in our graves before Lady Denham gets anything built.
Giving you sole ownership of Prospect Place is no trifle, Tom. It turns a profit this year.
Yes, but she's taking Parker Downs and the beachfront. That land has been in our family for generations, and the plot for the terrace and for the crescent was to be the crown of Sanditon. It was to be my doing, my design. She cut me to the quick. She has taken my children. She's dashed my hopes to pieces.
Let me look at the document, Tom.
Time frame is 2 weeks. I will be married by then.
No, Sydney. Mary and I discussed this. Even if it means giving up Parker Downs and taking loans from my sisters and Arthur, we will not touch Mrs. Campion's money. Is not that right, my dear?
Yes, Tom. Has something happened?
Gates has been here. Lady Denham's calling in the loan in 2 weeks. Or I may give up Parker Downs, our beachfront, and all of our joint properties, with the exception of Prospect.
Parker Downs? How can she ask us for Parker Downs?
It is a terrible blow.
But better than debtor's prison.
Slightly better.
Much better, Tom. I do not want to live without you. As much as I love Parker Downs, she may have it.
Tom, I've already given Eliza my word. We wed a week from Saturday. This being the case, I wish you would take the money.
Sydney, that's no way to start a marriage.
Mary's right. I will take Lady Denham's deal. Then we will be free from obligation and save the name of the Parker family. But the terrace, the crescent, Stringer and I had the plans laid out. We only needed funds to build. They were like children to me.
Tom, you cannot compare a pile of stones to Jenny or Alicia or Henry.
Mary's right, Tom. You know she is.
Yes, I know. I did not mean it, dearest.
I will trade some of my investments for Parker Downs. Surely Lady Denham would allow that.
It says here that she will give you the option to buy back the land for the Crescent if you can obtain the full purchase price within 5 years. Why, I could buy that even now.
Really, Arthur? I would be most grateful.
Susanna and I will help you. Arthur, my sister and I are always of the same mind.
Yes, we will all go in together. We are Parkers. We will see the Crescent built yet, Tom.
And the terrace? Does she give us a chance to buy back the terrace?
She's keeping the terrace, and once it has paid for itself, the profits will go into a community chest of sorts to provide a house of respite for invalids.
That does not sound like Lady Denham.
I would say that is Miss Allison's influence coming to bear.
There's nothing in here that would prevent us from building the promenade.
Yes, the promenade. That would lure more people to the beach.
What you really need, Tom, is a pleasure pier that extends into the water.
Like the one on the Isle of Wight.
Brighton does not have one. It would set us apart on the coast.
I like the sound of that. And now that I'm no longer under Lady Denham's thumb, we could build it as soon as the rents came in from Prospect House. Or sooner, if I can get a loan.
Tom!
All right. As soon as the rents come in. That will be soon enough. But a stone pier may take a while to build and cost a pretty penny.
We'll make it of timber. I'll see if Robinson has any men to get it started.
And I would like to help with the design, if I may. Tom, have you considered the Venetian style?
No, Arthur, but I suppose that is an option.
I will be excessively gratified to have a clean boardwalk. Be quite disagreeable about wet, sandy boots.
I agree. The sooner we build the boardwalk, the better for the tidiness of my front hall. Wiggins is forever sweeping out sand.
Do you know, I am feeling much, much better. In spite of losing the terrace and the cottages, I feel light as a feather. I need not bow to Lady Denham's whims anymore. I am free. For the first time in an age, I am free. Come, Mary, we must celebrate. I propose a toast.
To Lady Denham?
Goodness, no. What care I for Lady Denham? To you, Mary, and to my dear, dear family, and to my amicable divorce from Lady Denham.
I'll drink to that.
Hear, hear.
Two days later, the Parker siblings are again at Trafalgar House, drinking tea by the fire on a rainy spring day.
Mary, have you had a letter from Heywoods yet?
I received one from Allison just this morning. Here it is. You may read it.
Oh, it looks like they will be seeing their friends from Friston again.
The Frasers?
Yes. They are going to an assembly ball.
In Friston?
Well, she doesn't say. I assume so.
An assumption, Diana.
Now, Arthur, don't you start. We get enough of that from Sydney.
By the by, Tom, did you ever sell your Berkshires?
A few, yes, but I kept most of them. And a good thing, too, for pork pies went like hotcakes at the gypsy picnic. We made a tidy little profit, which will serve as my nest egg for building the crescent.
And did you sell those few to the Frasers?
The Frasers?
Of Friston.
Friston? Oh, no, Friston's too far.
I don't think the ball is in Friston.
What ball, my dear?
When the Frasers are attending.
And what does that have to do with selling hogs?
Nothing. I think Alison is writing of the ball in Willingden.
Really, Diana, you must try a little harder to keep up. We are speaking of hogs, and you are speaking of Heywoods. The two are not related in the least.
I'll say.
The Frasers of Friston. Tom, have you ever thought of changing Sanditon to the name that starts with P?
No. Pray, why do you say so?
Name recognition. I will never again say the name Fraser without recalling that they are from Friston. And if the Parkers were from, say, Penzance, everyone would remember us and our town.
Parkers of Penzance does have a nice musical ring to it.
How about the Parkers of Pangbourne?
Pittenweem?
I like Pinnistone.
The Parkers of Piddletrentide.
Piddletrentide? That's the best one yet. It's a novel thought, Arthur. We should look into it.
Perhaps the Heywood girls will be hailing from Friston before long. It sounds like the Frasers are very good friends of the family. Miss Fraser is coming to stay with them before the Willingden ball, and Will Heywood invited the Fraser brothers to come rat hunting at their farm.
Fraternizing with the Frasers of Friston.
Frightening.
The next morning, Diana, Aunt Sadie and Mary take the children to visit the former Parker home in the old Sanditon village on the cliff top. Arthur walks behind them, with Miss Julia Beaufort on his arm. He's winded before they even start to climb the hill.
Now, for our hill, our health breathing hill.
Uncle Arthur?
Yes.
If we are going to the Downs, why are we going up?
That is a very good question. It should have been built down on the beach.
Who lives there now?
No one. Sydney was hoping to live there here, but Mrs. Campion prefers her home at Everley.
It's a lovely place. I quite dote on it.
Do you? I rather prefer my house in London.
Bedford Place?
Yes. Yes, you must come to see it when the Venetian windows are all done.
Oh, yes! I am prodigiously fond of a Venetian window.
Are you, Miss Beaufort? We are of the same mind, then.
Once they reach their old home place, the children immediately run to the swing. The others follow, slowly winding their way through the kitchen gardens and rose arbours. Sydney has been out riding and returns to Parker Downs to see his family gathered in the garden. The laughter of the children swinging round over the valley.
Oh, Sydney, watch me! Look how high I can swing!
Yes, I see.
He watches Jenny for a moment and smiles, then quickly sobers again. With a shake of his head, he turns away and angrily urges his horse into a gallop. That afternoon, he comes back to Trafalgar House, mud-spattered and sweaty. Morgan takes his top hat and coat as he comes in.
Could you tell Wickens I would like some hot water for washing?
Of course, Mr. Sidney. These letters came for you.
Sidney takes the letters into the library. One is from the magistrate in London. The other is addressed in a beautiful feminine hand. He opens the magistrate's letter first and reads it quickly. It's information about Georgiana's abduction.
I wondered if it wasn't him. Of course he ran off, the blackguard.
For a short moment, Sidney contemplates the information, then looks at the other letter, sighs and slowly opens it. He reads in growing astonishment. For a few minutes he paces the floor, letter in hand. Then, with decisive action, he takes a fresh sheet of paper from the desk and begins to write.
Dear Eliza, in receipt of yours, I fully agree with your decision, but please, be careful about whom you trust. The enclosed letter will explain. With my highest regard, Sidney.
Sidney takes the letter from the magistrate, encloses it inside of his letter to Eliza Campion, and addresses it quickly.
Morgan!
Yes, Mr. Sidney.
See to it that this is delivered by special messenger. It must go without delay.
I'll see to it, sir.
And send Wilkins up with water right away, if you please. I do not care if it's cold. I need my blue coat and a fresh set of all else. I will be off in 15 minutes.
15?
If not before.
Right away, sir.
Gracious, Sidney, you must have had a hard ride.
Yes, and I must be off again. May I borrow a fresh horse?
Anything you need. Is everything all right?
I just got a report from the magistrate. As we suspected, Sir Edward was not acting out of notice by harbouring Georgiana. The rescue was staged. He was to pay off his accomplice once he was married.
The scoundrel!
As bad as he is, I would consider his accomplice worse. That man was playing one abductor against the other.
There was another one?
The one who sent her the brooch and lured her into the coach. And the mastermind behind it all was none other than Reginald Tracy.
Tracy?
I have been gravely deceived in his character.
Who was the first abductor?
They don't know. Sir Edward agreed to give up his accomplice in exchange for immunity, but he could only implicate Tracy. He had no contact with anyone else, but Tracy has now fled. I bet he was the one who conceived the lawsuit against Georgiana.
Why would he do that?
He is the natural son of Georgiana's uncle. He and his mother, whom I suspect is one he calls aunt, have secretly been supported by Mr. Lamb's brother all these years. I imagine Tracy thought if he could consolidate the Lamb brothers' estates, then he would obtain his father's favour and inherit a portion of it.
Does Miss Lamb know all this?
I doubt it. I have only just learned it.
It is most fortunate for Miss Lamb that Tracy did not succeed.
Most fortunate. Now it seems he is looking for other ways to obtain financial prosperity. I think he hopes to marry very well.
Extraordinary. It really is a story right out of a novel. And Sir Edward, I cannot comprehend it.
If anyone could be said to be least guilty, I would say it is him. But he claims to have known only that Georgiana had been kidnapped by someone else. But Tracy gave him the opportunity to rescue her and to try to persuade her to marry him, then give Tracy a portion of the spoils.
It was wicked of both of them.
Tracy was worse.
And Mr. Molyneux?
He had no part of it. Georgiana was very lucky that Sir Edward chose to take rooms just up the street from Molyneux's residence. Otis recognised the tramp that Tracy had hired. The man that was watching him at his bookstall was the same one watching Sir Edward.
Who needs novels when we have interesting characters such as Sir Edward in our midst?
Indeed. Do you know, Molyneux had the opportunity to escape with Georgiana to America, and he didn't.
Wilkins has everything ready upstairs, sir.
Thank you.
So you'll be gone a few days, I take it. Shall you stay in town for the wedding?
It depends on what happens.
I'll see that the horse is saddled and ready.
Thank you, Tom.
Sidney bounds up the stairs 3 at a time. He tears his cravat loose as he reaches the top landing and unwinds it from his neck. That evening, a ball is being held at the Willingden Assembly Rooms. Music and candlelight spill out of the entry as Sidney rides up and dismounts at the inn across the street. The tavern owner comes out and greets him. A groom takes his horse and awaits instructions.
Good evening, sir. Need a room tonight?
Yes, thank you. Is there a ball?
Oh, yes.
Do you know if the Heywoods are in attendance?
Oh, to be sure, sir. They always come.
I might go to the ball for a while.
Very good, sir. They can always use more gentlemen at the dances, but you'll have to hurry if you want to dance with the Heywood girls. Oh, would you like your boots shined?
Thank you. Maybe later.
A groom leads the horse away and Sidney crosses the street to the Assembly Rooms. He has not thought to remove his outer dusty riding coat, and the innkeeper curiously watches him as he walks away. Sidney speaks to an attendant at the door.
Could you tell me if Mr. Heywood is here tonight? I would like to speak with him, if I may.
There is a parcel of Heywoods here tonight. Are you speaking of the elder Heywood or the younger?
The elder.
If you wait here, I will fetch him directly. Who shall I say is asking for him?
Sidney Parker.
In a few moments, the attendant brings Mr. Heywood over to Sidney, waiting just outside the door.
Mr. Heywood.
So it's Parker, is it? I thought the name was... well, no matter. You're very tall. I think you'll do very well. The last one was so slight of build that my girl's pony could kick him into the next county.
I did not realize height would be taken so much into consideration.
Oh, it's not just the height. It's your strength and how much you weigh. I have a filly that gives as good as she gets. She needs a man that has a bit of muscle, or you'll never get a shoe on her.
Are you speaking of daughters or of horses?
Daughters? Are you not the new farrier come over from Friston?
No, I am Sidney Parker. I'm acquainted with your daughter.
My daughter? How do you know her?
I met her when she came to stay at my brother's last summer.
You did you?
I take it she has never spoken of me?
Indeed, she has not.
I'm not surprised.
Now look here. I think you'd best leave her be. She's too young to think about marriage.
Too young? I did not think there would be any difficulty with her age, since her sister was to marry at 18.
How do you... Wait just a minute. Who the devil are you? If you think I'm going to give you leave to court my 15-year-old daughter, you have some nerve.
15? I am inquiring about your elder daughter, who is 22. I would never presume.
Oh. You are that chap my brother was telling me about. But I thought you were married.
I was released from the engagement.
Do you mean to say you're divorced?
No, I was never married.
But you have 4 children.
No, that is my brother, Thomas Parker.
He was the one that overturned here last spring. And you are his brother.
Yes, Sidney Parker. Well met.
I am Harris Heywood, and you must be inquiring about Charlotte, my brother William's girl.
Yes.
It's all becoming very clear. I was expecting a new farrier today, but he never came. I thought you were he. My brother is not here tonight. But Charlotte and young Will and Allison are in the hall. Come in and dance. You can see my brother in the morning.
Would you mind keeping this conversation between you and me?
Mum's the word, old man. Come on.
They enter the crowded assembly room, where the ball is in full swing. Several officers are present in their red coats, and the room is ablaze with candles. Sidney leaves his dusty outer coat with an attendant, straightens his cravat, and quickly runs his fingers through his hair before Harris takes him to meet Charlotte's brother, Will. He points out Charlotte dancing with Anthony Fraser, and Alison just sitting down. Sidney makes his way over to Alison.
Mr. Parker.
How do you do, Miss Alison?
Very well. What are you doing in Willingden? Did you tire of sea breezes?
I thought I might test the waters up here.
Were you not to be married soon?
No. Will you dance, Miss Alison?
Why, yes.
Sidney and Alison walk onto the floor and join the set. His eyes rove over the couple separating him from Charlotte.
Does Charlotte know you're here?
No. Not yet.
The dance progresses and they exchange partners as part of the pattern. Sidney joins hands with Charlotte. She smiles incredulously.
Mr. Parker, how came you here?
I seem to remember a conversation we never finished.
Sidney whirls her off the dance floor and into an adjoining room where supper is being laid. Once Anthony and Alison realise their partners have left the floor, they look at one another with astonishment. In the supper room, Charlotte questions Sidney.
What are you doing? Mr. Fraser will wonder where I am.
Let him wonder. I am done being polite when it keeps me from doing what I ought. Mrs. Campion has released me from the engagement. I came as soon as I could to ask what I intended to ask you last summer. I know I've no right to expect.
Heyday, Miss Heywood, what's this? You can't leave me on the like that.
I'm sorry, Mr. Fraser.
Who is this?
This is Mr. Sidney Parker.
Parker? What is that to me? You can't take my partner in the middle of the dance, sir. She is engaged to me.
Engaged?
For the dance.
Come, Miss Heywood, you need not let this shabbaroon bother you. Let us return to the dance.
But Mr. Parker did come with some rather urgent news.
I'm sure it can wait until after the dance.
I don't think it can.
Well, what is it that must be discussed at this precise moment?
Well, it's that Mr. Parker, that is to say, I'm engaged to be married to Mr. Parker.
Engaged? You are not engaged.
She most certainly is.
Mr. Fraser, may I dance in my sister's stead? She is rather busy.
I don't see why I should give up my partner.
Shall we be off? Our turn is coming up.
Well, I never. If this isn't a fine how do you do.
After a scathing look at Sidney, Fraser grudgingly extends his arm to Alison and goes back to the dance, muttering under his breath.
An assumption, Miss Heywood.
Is it?
Well, you assumed the question.
But it was a correct assumption. Was it not?
Yes. But I would not have us begin with any assumptions, so let me be perfectly clear. I am asking you, Charlotte Heywood, to be my wife. And I would like to be your husband. Would you allow me that great honour?
Yes, I would.
Thank you. I should have asked you on the cliff top last summer. And it was all so new that day.
Yes, I recall that conversation being rather difficult.
My mind was in such a state of discomposure. My heart you had caught, but I had spent so many years believing that I could never again find love that it was difficult for my mind to catch up.
Mine was reeling as well.
I had planned to propose at the ball, and you saw how miserably that ended.
I do prefer balls in Willingden to that one.
I as well. Though tonight was not without its interruptions. I was hoping to meet your father tonight.
He does not keep late hours. But come and see him in the morning. He is up with the sun, and I promise not to engage myself to anyone else before you come.
I do hope you will forgive me for that. In time.
I do, Sydney. But you must come in the morning.
As long as there is no fire, no ranting madman, or intruding stonemason to keep me from it. But if there is, come hell or high water, I will be there.
Sydney looks deeply into Charlotte's eyes. He observes the softness of her lips. He leans in. He realises that every eye in the supper room is upon them. Raising Charlotte's hand to his lips, he kisses her fingers instead.
Is there someplace we might talk more privately?
I'm afraid the privacy of the ballroom is the best Willingden can offer.
The music wafts in from the ballroom. Those congregated in the supper room continue to look at them curiously, whispering to one another. Sydney looks into the ballroom and then back to Charlotte.
Then will you dance, my love?
Most willingly, sir.
The next morning at dawn, Mr. Heywoods sets off with his gun and his dog to check for new calves on the hilltop. The grass is dewy and there's a mist on the distant hills. Sydney rides up to the Heywoods' great house and sees Mr. Heywood walking off. He quickly hands the reins of his horse over to a farmhand and walks after him. When he reaches them, Charlotte's father stops and they shake hands. After a moment, they walk off together. A while later, Charlotte awakens in the bedroom she shares with Alison. She quickly dresses, and seeing her father and Sydney returning from the field, she dashes downstairs and out of the door.
Good morning, Charlotte.
Good morning, Papa. Sydney.
Good morning, Charlotte.
I met a new friend on my morning walk. I think you know him.
Yes, indeed, Papa.
Yes, well, I have invited him to stay with us for the week, so I may know him as well, if that is agreeable to you, Charlotte.
Very agreeable, Papa.
He has been telling me of his investments. Quite a variety, I must say.
Has he?
The most intriguing to me is the steam locomotive, but the most sound investment has to be the farm.
You bought a farm?
Parker Downs.
I love that place.
Arthur was telling me how much you were taken with it. I've always wanted to make it my home since Tom built Trafalgar.
You cannot go wrong with land, son. And living in the great house, you will be able to observe what needs to be done at once. It's best not to leave that to anyone else. Well, I think you two must have much to discuss, and I must get to the barns. Squire Fraser is coming to buy a boar.
Is that Squire Fraser of Friston?
Indeed. Are you acquainted with him?
I met his son last night, after a fashion.
Alison told me about that. I'm glad everyone remained unbruised when all was said and done.
As was I, sir.
Mr. Heywoods walks off towards the house, whistling a tune. Alone, Sydney turns to Charlotte.
Lead the way, Miss Heywoods.
Oh, now I am Miss Heywoods again.
I thought I might as well use the title now, as you are to give it up shortly.
How long do I have as Miss Heywoods?
3 weeks, unless you want a special license. It could be arranged.
Has Lady Denham given any assurance that she will not call in your brother's loan?
Oh, I have much to tell you about that. Does that have any bearing on when we get married?
I'm only trying to gauge how soon we might need to fix a date.
I see you have no trust in me whatsoever. cannot blame you. But Lady Denham will no longer present any difficulty. She has taken most of Tom's properties in exchange for the debt.
Has she? And how is Tom? He must be devastated.
Better than expected. She left him Prospect House and, of course, Trafalgar. I'm surprised at how well he's taking the blow of losing everything else. I think he's so happy to be free of Lady Denham and the sword of Damocles hanging over him that he does not mind it so much.
And how was it that Mrs. Campion released you?
A few weeks ago, I told her the truth about why I proposed, long before I knew what Lady Denham's plans were. At the time, she was still willing to go forward, but I think she has since realised it would not have been for the best. She sent word yesterday that she had decided to give it up.
I see.
And it only took me 20 minutes to start for Willingden. You must think me very fickle.
Impulsive, capricious, somewhat faulty in judgment when it comes to where your duty begins and your brother's ends, but not fickle. You are a different man, Sidney Parker, from the one I knew last summer.
How so? What have I said that changed your perception?
It's not what you've said, but what you've done. I thought you did not care for Georgiana, that you stood in the way of true love just because you could not have it for yourself. From your actions over this past winter, I see I was grossly mistaken in those assumptions. The more I know of you, Sidney Parker, the more I love you.
Sidney stops walking. He looks down the fence row to the house, and finding a spot where a spreading oak secludes them from curious eyes, he takes Charlotte by the arm. Gently, he backs her up to the tall stone fence. He leans in.
And I love you, Charlotte Heywood. You brought joy into my life when I thought it had gone forever.
Sidney takes Charlotte into his arms and kisses her. The younger Heywoods, who have been watching from their bedroom window to mark their sister and her suitor's progress to the house with great alacrity, wait most impatiently for her and Mr. Parker to emerge from their sheltering arbour of amour. They wait in vain. After an eternity by Harry's pocket watch and only the briefest of blissful moments in the minds of the lovers, they give up their watch and go down to breakfast. A week later, Sidney's visit is reluctantly concluded after many walks, intimate conversations, and a couple of cricket matches with the Heywood cousins. An impromptu ball is held at the Heywood Great House. Sister Sarah plays a rollicking jig on the piano.
Would you care to dance, Miss Helena?
Yes, sir. Do you like to dance?
Why, yes, especially with very pretty girls.
As much as you like sea bathing.
Much better.
Charlotte says you go to the sea bathing every morning.
Does she? I did not realise she paid that much attention to my morning rituals.
Do the fish bite you?
Oh, no. We have only friendly fish in Sanditon. You will have to come to see for yourself.
If a pa would only take us.
I think we will have to bring you all to Parker Downs for a house party.
A house party? Yes, please!
The tempo picks up and Sidney and Helena end up in a spin so rapid that Helena comes off the ground and they both end up very dizzy. Charlotte steadies Sidney while Alison rescues Helena from almost falling down.
Think I see where Arthur gets his ideas for tripping the light fantastic.
No, I learned that from Arthur.
The next day, Charlotte and her family bid Sidney goodbye. Sidney takes Charlotte's hand and presses it into his heart.
I'll be back as soon as I give the news to my family and set Parker Downs to rights.
You will not be gone long.
No, my darling.
The next afternoon, Sidney walks into the Trafalgar House library, where Tom is again studying his model of Sanditon.
Sidney, what news? Is there another Mrs. Parker yet?
Not yet.
Good. I was hoping you'd invite us to the wedding. So it's to be Saturday, then?
No, Saturday fortnight.
Oh?
In Willingden.
Sidney, Mrs. Campion released you?
Yes.
And you are to marry?
Charlotte.
Tom engulfs Sidney in a hug.
I'm so happy, Sidney. So happy. What do you think, Mary? Charlotte's coming into the family.
Oh, Sidney! At last! I adore Charlotte.
As do I, Mary. As do I.
As Mary hugs Sidney, he's so overcome that he has to wipe away a tear. A fortnight later in Willingden, Charlotte walks to the church on her father's arm, surrounded by her siblings and cousins. At the front of the nave, Sidney stands waiting for his bride, surrounded by his brothers and sisters. As soon as he sees Charlotte, a wide grin spreads over his face. It's the same smile that Tom and Susanna remember from his youth. There's no chagrin, no smirk, no pain in this smile. It is pure joy. The families take their place and Charlotte and her father proceed up the aisle. Georgiana catches her friend's hand as she goes by and squeezes it.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered together here in the sight of God and in the face of this congregation to join together this man and this woman in holy matrimony, which is an honourable estate instituted of God in the time of man's innocency, into which these two persons present come now to be joined.
I, Sidney Parker, take thee, Charlotte Heywood, to my wedded wife, to have and to hold from this moment forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer.
In sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, till death do us part, according to God's holy ordinance, and thereto I plight thee my troth.
Let us pray. Eternal God, creator and preserver of all mankind, giver of all spiritual grace and author of everlasting life, send thy blessing upon these servants, this man and this woman, whom we bless in thy name, that as Isaac and Rebekah lived faithfully together, so these persons may surely perform and keep the vow and covenant betwixt them made, and may ever remain in perfect love and peace together, and live according to thy laws, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Those whom God hath joined together, let no man put asunder. Inasmuch as Sidney Parker and Charlotte Heywood have consented together in holy wedlock, and have witnessed the same before God and this company, and thereto have given and pledged their troth either to other, and have so declared the same by giving and receiving of a ring and by joining of hands, I pronounce that they be man and wife together, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen.
Here, it is thoroughly tempting to say, and they lived happily ever after. And they did. But that is never entirely true. But I will let other pens dwell on the squabbles and contentions that arise within the first year of marriage, and only say that the first year of marriage for Charlotte and Sidney Parker did much to return Sidney to his former jovial self. And Charlotte reaped more hours of happiness in that year than all the anxious hours of loving service that she had ever given to the Parker family. They settled at Parker Downs, where they were blessed with many children. The swing had to be replaced more than once for all the use it received from the little Sidneys and Charlottes, as well as their mamma. And what, you may ask, happened to Georgiana Lamb and Allison Heywood? We could leave them on a cliff for another season, but we will not.
Around the time of Mr. and Mrs. Sidney Parker's first wedding anniversary, Miss Lamb came into her majority and on the same day married Otis Molyneux. In her newfound happiness, Georgiana became a valuable friend to her former guardian, as well as to Charlotte. After a difficult transatlantic crossing, the Molyneux were able to reunite Aunt Sadie with her husband in Jamaica, where they bought a plantation to be run by freed men. Our story cannot be complete without revisiting the question that James Stringer promised most faithfully to ask again, to which he was given a most ardent and affirmative answer by Miss Alison Heywood, the same week in which he finished his apprenticeship. Soon after, the entire Heywood family ventured beyond the walls of Willingden to travel to Sanditon in order to witness the troths of their daughter Alison to a rising star in the echelons of architecture. The church bells rang out as the couple walked out into the churchyard, pausing to leave the wedding bouquet at the tombstone of Mr. Stringer's father. Before heading back to the Sanditon House wedding breakfast, James and Alison, in a very handsome gig furnished by Lady Denham, took a drive to the beach by way of the newly finished terrace. Inscribed in the original cornerstone were the names Isaac and James Stringer, 1817. After a brisk run on the beach, they turned back towards Sanditon House.
And as they turned onto the Hollis Falls Road, where he first proposed to his lady, James Stringer kissed his bride, with a kiss so pure, born of such patience and blended with such passion, that the likes have never been seen since Adam first beheld Eve, on the day he awoke to the existence of woman.
Thank you for joining us for the conclusion of Parker Brothers Build the Boardwalk. I'm Caroline Jane Knight from Chawton, where my fifth great-aunt Jane Austen wrote the first 12 chapters of Sanditon. This has been a presentation of DIY Austen Drama, a group of people from around the world who found each other through our love of drama and Austen. We've thoroughly enjoyed putting this together for our fellow Austen fans in this time of the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm also founder and chair of the Jane Austen Literacy Foundation and would sincerely like to thank Carol Lisa O'Brien and all of the actors for all of the hard work in putting this together. We sincerely hope that you enjoy watching it just as much as we enjoy making it. Thank you.
The water is wide, I cannot cross o'er, neither have I wings to fly. Give me a boat that can carry two, and both shall row. A ship there is, and she sails the sea. She's loaded deep as deep can be, but not so deep as the love I'm in. I know not if I sink or swim. Must I go bound while you go free? must I be born with so little art as to love a man who would break my heart? When cockle shells turn silver bells, then will my love come back to me. When roses bloom in winter's gloom, then shall my love return to me. Forbid it, Lord, that I should boast, save in the cross of Christ my King. All the vain things that charm me most, I sacrifice them to my